My name is Claire. I am 29 years old. I lived a quiet life in the town of Reading. I worked at a small clinic as a receptionist. Every day felt the same. It was simple and peaceful. I did not think my life would ever change. Then I met Daniel. He came into the clinic with his friend. His friend had hurt his hand. Daniel stood beside him, calm and polite. He smiled at me and asked for a pen. After that day, he came back again, but alone. He said he liked to walk by the clinic and stopped just to say hello. Soon, we started talking more. We met for coffee after work. He was funny, kind, and a little quiet. He said he worked with electronics and fixed phones at home. He told me he did small jobs for friends and earned cash that way. I liked that he was simple, like me. After 2 months, we became a couple. He often came to my flat and stayed the night. He brought food and cooked dinner. He helped clean. Sometimes we sat in silence, and it still felt nice. He looked at me with warm eyes. I felt lucky. One evening, he said he wanted to move in with me. I said yes. We bought a small wardrobe for his things. He kept his backpack near the door. He said it held tools. I never looked inside. Everything seemed fine in the beginning. He worked during the day and sometimes left in the evening to fix phones. I believed him. He always came back before midnight. He never smelled like alcohol. He never shouted. I felt safe. But slowly, I started to notice small things. He would never take phone calls near me. If his phone rang, he would step out onto the balcony. He said, "It's just a work call." Sometimes he left the flat without telling me first. I asked where he was going, and he always said, "Just helping someone." One night he came home with a small cut on his hand. I asked what happened. He said, "A broken phone screen." I gave him a bandage. He smiled and said it was nothing. Another time, I was cleaning the flat. I found a roll of black tape and a screwdriver under the sofa. It looked new and unused. I asked, "Why is this here?" He said, "I used it earlier. I forgot to put it back." I said nothing more. He started to carry more cash. He paid the rent without delay. He bought me flowers and nice food. But we both worked simple jobs. I asked, "Where is this money from?" He said, "From clients. Some give extra. It's lucky." I wanted to trust him. I really did. One Friday night he left at 9 p.m. He said he had to meet someone near the train station. I stayed home and watched a film, but he didn't return until after 1 a.m. When he came in, his hands were cold. He looked tired. I asked, "What took so long?" he said. The phone was worse than I thought. I went to bed, but I could not sleep. My heart felt heavy. I started to feel something was wrong. A few days later, I opened the cupboard to look for biscuits. His black backpack was there. I paused. I had never touched it. But that night, something pulled me to look. I opened it just a little. Inside, I saw black gloves, 2 screwdrivers, and a small plastic card I didn't recognize. I zipped the bag shut. He came home 10 minutes later. I acted normal. That weekend, we visited my sister in Oxford. Daniel was quiet during the drive. At lunch, my sister asked him, "What do you do for work?" He smiled and said, "Tech jobs, fixing things." She looked confused, but said nothing more. On the drive back, Daniel said, "I don't like your sister much." I asked why. He said, "She asks too many questions." One night, I could not sleep again. I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea. Daniel was on the balcony, on the phone. His voice was low. I heard the words job and tonight. I stayed still. When he came in, he jumped a little. He didn't expect me to be awake. He asked, "Why are you up?" I said, "Couldn't sleep." He walked to the bathroom and closed the door. I sat at the table, thinking. The next morning, he was already gone. I found a note on the fridge. "Back soon. Don't wait." Hours passed. It was almost lunch when he returned. He held a small plastic bag in one hand. He said, "Just parts." I didn't ask, but my hands shook when I washed the dishes. A few days later, a neighbor stopped me in the hall. Her name was Mrs. Rayner. She said, "I saw your boyfriend outside at 2 a.m. He was talking to a man in a dark coat." I asked, "Where?" She pointed to the side street. "Right there," she said. I went back into my flat and sat down. My head felt hot. I told myself, maybe it's nothing. But my heart knew better. That night, I waited until Daniel slept. I went to the cupboard and took the backpack again. I opened it fully. I found a black mask, 2 phones without SIM cards, a map with a red circle drawn on it, and 3 more plastic cards. I didn't know what they were. I felt sick. I put everything back, locked the cupboard, and went to bed. I didn't sleep. The next morning I asked him, "What kind of jobs do you really do?" He looked at me, his face still. "I told you. I fix things." I said, "I found your bag." He stayed quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You don't understand." I said, "Then help me understand." He stood up and walked to the window. "I have some people I work with," he said. "We do small jobs. Just tech stuff. No one gets hurt. I whispered, "Are you in trouble?" He turned. "Not yet." I wanted to cry, but my eyes were dry. I asked, "Is it illegal?" He looked away. "Some of it is." I felt like I couldn't breathe. He said, "I do this to pay my debts." I didn't want you to know. I was going to stop. I said, "When?" He didn't answer. That night I lay in bed and looked at the ceiling. I thought about the first time we met. I remembered his smile. It felt like a lie now, but a small part of me still loved him. That was the worst part. The next day, I called my sister. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. My sister's name is Ruth. She is older than me. She is also stronger. I called her from work and asked if I could come over. She said yes at once. I left early and took the bus to her house. I held my bag close the whole ride. My hands would not stop shaking. When I got there, she gave me tea and asked what was wrong. I told her about Daniel. Not everything, but enough. I said, "He hides things. I found strange tools and cards. I think it's not legal." Ruth looked at me for a long time. She didn't speak right away. Finally, she said, "Claire, you have to be careful. You don't really know what he's doing." I nodded. She said, "You should leave. Come stay here for a few nights." I wanted to say yes, but I said, "I need to go back. I need to hear the full truth." Ruth looked worried. She said, "Don't wait too long." I promised I wouldn't. That night, I returned home. Daniel wasn't there. I sat on the sofa and looked at the door. I thought about what to say. I was scared, but I was more scared of not knowing the truth. He came in at midnight. His coat was wet. He looked tired. He said, "You're still awake?" I said yes. He walked to the kitchen and poured water. I stood and said, "We need to talk." He turned around, silent. I said, "You can't lie anymore. I know something is wrong. I found the bag. I saw the map. I saw the phones." He sat down and looked at the floor. After a moment, he said, "I didn't want you to know. I didn't plan to bring it into your life." I asked, "What are you doing?" He said, "It's small jobs. Just data things. I break into systems. We take cards. We sell them. No one gets hurt." My legs felt weak. I sat down. "That's a crime, Daniel." He said, "Yes, but it was never meant to last. Just to fix my life." He told me he was in debt. He owed money to the wrong people. He tried to work at a shop, but the money was not enough. A man he knew offered him quick jobs. He took the first one, then the second. Soon, it became a regular thing. I asked, "Do you want to stop?" He said, "Yes." I asked, "Do you mean that?" He looked me in the eyes. "Yes, but I need help." I didn't know what to do. I said, "You have to tell someone, or walk away now." He said, "If I walk away, they will find me." I felt cold. I stood and walked to the window. For a long time we said nothing. The next morning, I called in sick. Daniel slept late. I sat at the table with my tea. I thought about the past year. I thought about the kind man who gave me flowers, the one who fixed my old toaster and made soup when I was ill. That man was still here. But now, he came with danger. Daniel got up around noon. He sat across from me and said, "I'll stop. I'll burn the maps. I'll delete the files. I'll give back the tools. I swear it." He took my hand. "Will you stay with me?" I didn't answer. That evening we made pasta. It felt almost normal. He put music on. We ate and talked about films. I laughed once, but inside I was tired. That night I didn't sleep beside him. I slept on the sofa. The next day I returned to work. Ruth messaged me 3 times. "Are you okay?" I said. "Not sure." She called and said, "I've been reading. You need to be careful. These men don't stop easy." I asked, "What would you do?" She said, "Leave now." I said, "I want to give him one chance." She said, "Then don't give more than that." That evening, Daniel came home early. He brought flowers. He looked hopeful. He said, "I turned the phones off. I'm done. I told them I quit." I asked, "Did they believe you?" He said, "They weren't happy, but they let me go." I wasn't sure if it was true. A few days passed. Things seemed quiet. Daniel stayed home. He cleaned, cooked, and played music. He helped an old neighbor carry her bags. He smiled more. He made plans for us to visit his aunt. For the first time in weeks, I felt a little peace, but it didn't last. One night, there was a loud knock at the door. It was past midnight. We were in bed. Daniel froze. I sat up. He whispered, "Don't answer." My heart pounded. The knock came again. Then silence. After 5 minutes, Daniel walked to the door. He didn't open it. He waited. After a long pause, he looked through the peephole. He turned to me and said, "It's no one." But I didn't believe him. He stayed up the rest of the night. I heard him walking in the kitchen, opening and closing drawers. I didn't ask what he was doing. The next day he said, "I need to go out." I asked, "Where?" He said, "Just for a walk." I watched from the window as he left. I had a strange feeling, so I followed him. I stayed far behind. He walked fast and looked around often. He turned into an alley behind a shop. I stopped and waited. After 10 minutes, he came out with a small bag. When we got home, I asked, "What's in the bag?" He looked surprised. "You followed me?" I said, "Just tell me." He opened the bag. Inside was a phone, gloves, and cash. My heart sank. "You said you stopped," I whispered. He said, "I did. This is the last thing." "You promised," I said. "I had no choice," he replied. That was the moment I knew. He wasn't ready to stop. Not really. I packed a small bag and called Ruth. She said, "Come now." I left Daniel a note. "I love you, but I can't stay in this." He wasn't home when I left. I locked the door behind me and walked away. I stayed with Ruth for a few days. She gave me a small room in her flat. Her baby was always smiling, and that helped me smile too. But inside, I felt confused. I still loved Daniel, but I could not trust him anymore. He said he wanted to stop, but I saw he was still hiding things. I read the note I left on the table before I left our flat. I had written, "I love you, but I cannot live in fear." I meant every word. Daniel sent me many messages. He said he was sorry. He asked me to come back. He told me that he was ready to stop and wanted to change, but I didn't answer. I needed time to think. Ruth told me I did the right thing. She said, "Love is not enough if there is danger." I knew she was right. On the third day, Daniel came to Ruth's flat. He didn't call before coming. I was sitting in the kitchen when Ruth walked in and said, "Daniel is outside." My heart started to beat fast. I did not know if I wanted to see him or tell him to go away. I walked out the door and saw him standing near the street. He looked tired. His clothes were messy, and he had dark circles under his eyes. He said, "Hi, Claire. Can we talk?" I didn't speak right away, but I nodded. We walked to a quiet park near the flat. We sat on a bench. I didn't look at him at first. Daniel said, "I know you left because I lied. I did lie. I said I stopped the jobs, but I didn't. I was scared to stop. I didn't want to lose you. but I did, anyway. I stayed quiet. I was listening, but I wanted to hear more. He said, I burned the maps. I threw away the tools. I told the others I won't do this anymore. I turned to him and asked, did they believe you? He said, maybe not, but I had to try. I'm tired of living like this. I asked, what happens now? He took a deep breath and said, I want to go to the police. I want to tell them everything. If I don't stop now, it will only get worse. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt you. I looked at him. His eyes were red, but honest. I asked, will you go alone? He nodded. I already called them. I'm going tomorrow morning. That shocked me. I didn't know what to say. He was really going to do it. He said, I'm not asking you to wait for me. I just wanted to tell you the truth before I go. We sat in silence for a few minutes. I looked at the trees, the sky, and the street. It was a quiet day, but inside me, everything felt loud. Before we left the park, I said, if you truly do this, I will be proud of you, but I can't promise I'll come back. He nodded. I understand. He walked me back to Ruth's flat. At the door, he said, thank you for helping me see what I had become. Then he left. The next morning, I waited. I kept checking my phone. Around noon, I got a message from Daniel. It said, I went in. They took my statement. I don't know what will happen next, but I feel better. I wrote back, I'm proud of you. That was the first time I replied since I left. A week later, I got another message. He said the police had charged him. He would be in jail for 6 months. He also said, I know that's not long, but I'll use the time to change. You gave me a reason to try. I moved to a new town. It was not far, but it felt like a fresh start. I got a new job at a dentist's office. The people there were kind. I kept myself busy with work and books. I also started writing in a small notebook. It helped me stay calm. Every night, I wrote one thing I was thankful for. Some days it was just tea or quiet. But it helped. I didn't visit Daniel in jail. He sent me one letter. He said he was learning to live better. He was helping in the kitchen and reading books. He didn't ask me to come back. He just said, I hope you are happy and safe. That's enough for me. I cried after reading it, but it didn't hurt like before. It was a soft sadness. After 6 months, I heard that Daniel had finished his time. I didn't call him. I didn't send a message. I didn't want to open that door again. Some people change, but I wasn't sure if love was enough for me to forget. One evening, Ruth and I sat on the balcony. She asked, "Do you still miss him?" I said, "Sometimes. But I miss the good version of him. Not the one who kept secrets." She nodded and passed me a cup of tea. I thought about my life now. It was quiet and safe. I had peace. I didn't wake up in fear. I didn't check the door 3 times. I didn't hide my thoughts. That meant more than anything. Daniel was part of my life. I would never forget him. He had shown me love, but he also showed me what happens when love has lies inside it. I wished him well, but I didn't wish to return. One morning, Ruth gave me a gift. It was a new notebook. On the first page, she had written, "Write only truth." I smiled. I opened to a fresh page. I wrote, "I was afraid. I was hurt. But now I am free." And I really was. We all go through hard times, but stories like this can help us feel seen. Thank you for watching, and come back for more real moments.